this video is one I've been excited to make. Now, I like The Twilight Zone. I actually have watched quite a bit of the original series and then the revivals and then the later revivals, but really recently, I'd say recently, it's 6 years ago, in 2019, it was revived by Jordan Peele. Now, Jordan Peele is actually quite a good director, so I can't really disagree that he isn't the best person to have made the series. And a lot of these episodes in the first season, which consists of 10 episodes, are pretty good. I'll review both seasons separately, but for now, I'm going to rate season 1 from worst to best. Just a small reminder that the episodes which focus on an overtly political message are things I'm going to look quite down upon, especially if that message trumps the enjoyment of the episode. That being said, none of the episodes in this season are particularly bad. They're all well made, well written, I'd say, for the most part. But some are better than others, and there has to be one right at the bottom.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
Okay, I may have lied a little. One of these episodes is bad, and that is season 1, episode 3, Replay. Now, just to get this out of the way, it wasn't good when it was made into that short film. I think it was on like Netflix or whatever, where the black guy's going through his day, Groundhog Day style, and he just keeps getting killed by a racist cop over and over. That was shit, and this is basically the same concept. So this woman and her son, who's going to college, are at a roadside diner, and this woman discovers that her family camcorder is able to turn back time when she presses the rewind button. She's the only one who keeps a memory of this. Now, after this happens, they're pulled over by one of the state troopers they saw at the diner, who's incredibly racist, and he starts to become violent. She rewinds time, convincing the son to pull over before stopping, and the cop still gives them shit, but every time she rewinds it, it doesn't help. Now, they eventually try and take a different route to go to a motel, and the cop somehow still comes to harass them. Another time, she tries to befriend him at the diner, and it ends with him shooting her son. She tries to get her brother's help, and they're able to get the son safely to the campus. But now the cop arrives with an entire group of state troopers, which is ridiculous. They're forced to leave by the students because they stood their ground. And we jump to 10 years later. Now, the son that went to college has become a father, and the mother still has a camera for security. In an incident, this guy's daughter accidentally breaks the camera, and he's able to convince his mother to let go of it. It ends with a flash of red and blue of a police siren coming as soon as they left to go get ice cream, and that's how it ends. I think you're just supposed to assume that the cops now killed them because racism. It's a shit episode. It's really bad, and it deserves to be on the bottom of the list. Don't let your politics get in the way of making an enjoyable story, especially when this concept was done already. I'm not sure if this came first or that Netflix shorts came first. Either or, they're both shit. On to number 9 on my list, I have episode 8 of season 1, which is Point of Origin. Now, we're introduced to this world where this wealthy woman is met by her housekeeper, who's Guatemalan, she's a foreigner, and the housekeeper asks if her grandson can use this address for school that he's going to because they can't use their address. Now, the socialite, this rich woman, Eve is her name, she agrees and starts to have a party. However, her housekeeper's taken by ICE, which is your immigration police, pretty much. Now, Eve finds out her credit cards start getting declined, and in the parking lot, they're also picked up by an immigration group. This agent interrogates her and her husband, and they're eventually released, but she has to stay in custody until they can find out where she's from. Now, she eventually finds out that she is an illegal alien too, but she's from another dimension, not from like a different country. Her and the other woman who was taken by ICE eventually work together to try and escape, and she goes home. And the husband tells her she can't be there. She's eventually captured by this immigration again, especially when her husband finds out and tells her to. Well, no, the husband doesn't tell her to leave, but the husband tells her she can't be there. and she's taken away to be imprisoned. That's it. It's supposed to be a message on immigration and illegal immigrants, and I know we have to care about illegal immigrants even though they're illegal and committing a crime. Sorry, but come on, really. Especially if it's on from another dimension, I feel like that could be a genuine risk to reality. So they were fully justified. I'm on the side of HSR. I will join the protests on the side of the enemy. And yeah, that's number 9 on my list.
You have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
At number 8, we have episode 5 of season 1, and this is the Wunderkind. The Wonder Child, pretty much. This is one of the less supernatural ones, but it's still not a bad episode. So this campaign manager is in hospital, and he's telling his attendant what happened to get him in hospital. He considered himself this wonder child of campaigning. He's very good at it. But his career was ruined when he couldn't get the current president re-elected. He was at a bar years later and finds out that this 11-year-old YouTuber is announcing to become president. So he thinks, okay, well, I can redeem myself by helping him. And he convinces the parents to let the kid run. The public supports the kid, but he struggles during debates and that sort of thing. The campaign manager helps build his campaign around family because he learns that the kid's dog is dying of cancer. And the child actually wins. He successfully becomes president, 11 years old. The child takes control of the White House, and the main guy starts to regret his actions because, oh, shocker, an 11-year-old child shouldn't be an president. Eventually, the kid tells this guy that he lied about his dog dying just so he could get votes. And he gets the Secret Service to shoot him. Now, that's why he's in hospital, and he finds out from the attendant that the surgeon that's going to operate on him is a child, because Oliver passed a law that would forbid old doctors from continuing to work. Bit of a dystopian one, and I can kind of agree with the logic. We shouldn't let very young people in charge, because they're probably just as bad as the old fogies.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
On to number 6 on my list, we have episode 7, which is Not All Men. And I swear to God, this is not as politically charged as you think. It is a bit, but it's not that bad. So this woman is invited by a co-worker to watch a meteor shower. And a co-worker picks up a meteor from this meteor shower. It changes his attitude, makes him more aggressive, you know. The next day, she meets her sister, and her sister's celebrating the birthday with her husband. Her husband's nephew and another guy. The nephew's name is Cole. Anyway, the woman witnesses men around town behaving more and more violently. And eventually she sees Mike, the husband of her sister, kill a man who followed them home from a bar. They meet up with Cole, the nephew, and he's unaffected by it, but Dylan, her co-worker, comes and tries to strangle him. They're eventually saved, her sister and the nephew, and taken to a quarantine center. They find out that a virus infected the town's water supply and affected almost all of the men. Now, Cole, the nephew, actually had one of the meteors in his pocket, but he was completely healthy and was able to control his rage. So the whole message is that it was just a placebo and men were just letting their violent behavior run rampant, I guess. But I don't agree with that, because the way the episode goes is that you can clearly see her co-worker change when he picked up the meteor. It did affect him. It wasn't just that, oh, he's using it as an excuse. Because come on. And then eventually the violence is blamed on like road rage and crime. Not the strongest episode, but now we've moved past this, we're moving into the pretty good episodes.
I don't have to be careful, I got a gun.
Next up is episode 9 of season 1, and that is The Blue Scorpion. So this professor is pretty depressed, and he's divorcing from his wife. He doesn't want to, but she wants a divorce. And while this is happening, he finds out his father has committed suicide. So he goes to his father's house and he finds a gun that's called the Blue Scorpion, and it has a bullet with his name on it. Now, at the funeral, he starts questioning why his father would do what he did, and he even contemplates it later on. His wife has started seeing another man, who's also named Jeff, same name as the main character, and he thinks about killing the man. Yeah, the bullet still has Jeff's name on it. Jeff goes to a house planning to kill his wife's boyfriend, but while he's parked there, he's attacked by a stranger. He shoots the stranger and kills him, and this stranger's name was also Jeff. And he finds out the stranger was responsible for a whole bunch of break-ins. He gets praised for doing this, and he decides to get rid of the gun, blaming it for his serious misfortune. He throws it into a lake, and it's later found by a couple kids, and the bullet now reads Kyle, which the kid who picked it up. Very short story. You can sort of see how that sort of plot would go. It's very interesting because it leaves a lot open for your interpretation.
Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
Now we have number 5 on my list, Nightmare at 30,000 Feet. Now this is actually based on an episode from the original Twilight Zone, and it's not as good. I'll be honest right off the bat, it's not as good as that episode, but it is still a good episode. So this journalist gets on board an airline because he's getting a new job, and he finds an MP3 player in the seat pocket of his seat, and it has a podcast about the mystery of this airline that he's on, which apparently disappeared an hour into the flight. He listens to the podcast and it describes everything happening on the flight, like to a T. So he starts to freak out a bit and confides in a former pilot that's on the plane, and he's the only one who actually takes him seriously. So this journalist tries using clues from the podcast to prevent the disaster, but it starts making people more suspicious towards him. The pilot that's with him offers to take control of the plane, and he guesses that it's the code of the plane. They're able to get in and they overpower the pilots and take control of the plane. Justin, the journalist, listens to the podcast and finds out that this pilot that he's met is actually the one responsible for the crash. And he basically just crashes the plane into this atoll, this little group of islands, and he dies. Now, Justin, the journalist, learns through the podcast next episode after waking up on the island that everyone survived the crash and were rescued months later, except for one person, him. The other survivors appear and they blame him for the crash. They beat him to death, despite what he's saying that he was trying to save them. It's a really good episode. It's very interesting. Like I said, it's just not quite as good as Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
Oh, drat these computers. They're so naughty and so complex. I could pinch them.
On to number 4 on my list, we have 6 Degrees of Freedom. Now, this one is a bit out there. Quite literally, set in outer space. So this crew of a spacecraft are heading for Mars because nuclear war has broken out on Earth. During this flight, the crew members begin to turn on each other, but our leader, Alexa Brandt, tries to break up the fighting. She also slowly starts to break, and it freaks out one of the other crew members. One of the crew members goes crazy and starts getting paranoid. He eventually jumps out of the airlock and seemingly killed. The crew successfully land on Mars, but we find out that this guy jumped out of the airlock was taken by aliens, and his paranoia was right. They were being watched by these aliens. They were trying to determine if humans are worthy to pass through the Great Filter and interact with the rest of the galaxy. I kind of like the concept. It's not bad. Again, it's not overly complex. It works really well. Into the top 3. Now, they had to have a meta episode, but I actually don't mind it. We have episode 10 of the first season, Blurry Man. Now, we meet this screenwriter who's also a fan of the Twilight Zone, Sophie, and she's writing the opening narration for the episode. We even see Jordan Peele playing Jordan Peele, despite him being in the show and everything. And she realizes that somebody's changed this narration to be about her, which confuses her. She starts to notice things are off, a blurry figure that's appearing in several scenes, as well as previous episode scenes, which is also a really cool meta twist. She starts to search for the director, Jordan Peele, but she can't find him, and she meets someone called the Blurry Man, the one that she keeps seeing, and she's chased by him throughout the studio. Now, she's eventually able to finish the narration and hands it to Jordan, but she finds herself transported into an episode of The Twilight Zone. Now, this episode is Time Enough at Last, which I'll probably get into when I review the original series. It's a really fucking good episode, and it's probably one of the most well-known episodes of The Twilight Zone. Anyway, while she's in this world, she finally meets the Blurry Man and agrees to speak with him. The Blurry Man reveals himself as Rod Serling, the host of the original Twilight Zone. Now, Rod Serling's passed away a long time ago. He's played by someone else, and I'm not sure how they made the guy look like him, but whichever. He tells her that they have a lot of work to do, and he escorts her through a door leading into the Twilight Zone. That's basically it. It's a very nice, message to the fans and to people who love the show. It was good.
Not very funny!
Now, in second place, we actually have the opener to the season, The Comedian. So, this is episode 1 of the season, and it's about a struggling stand-up comedian. He meets this fellow comedian who's a complete legend, and this guy advises him to put more personal material in his routines to make people laugh. He starts with a routine about his dog, but then discovers when he gets home that his dog is now gone. Completely wiped from existence, as in it never existed. No one can remember it or anything. And as this happens, he starts to realize that if he jokes about people in his life, it gets lots of laughs, gets him fame, but they disappear from existence. He accidentally erases his nephew in this, and starts to do things like this. He erases another comedian, he erases his girlfriend's mentor, but this fucks over her life because she becomes a waitress. And he continues to abuse his power after meeting with this legendary comedian that he met, who knows about it, as he's been using it too. It's hinted that he gave him this power. He even erases his rival, and is confronted by his girlfriend about his journal, which is just the names of the people that he's erased, and she's confused. He finally realizes that what he's doing is completely wrong, and in his final set, he jokes about himself, ending it with him disappearing. Because he never existed, everyone that he erased now exists again. We cut forward a bit where we meet Didi, his rival from earlier in the show. She's now a rising comedian, and she sits down next to this famous comedian that Samir met before and asks for his advice. And that's when he smiles at her because he's going to give her the exact same advice. The final shot of the episode is Samir appearing on a mural at the comedy club of the audience members. I feel like this implies that everyone on that mural is someone who's done the exact same thing he did. It felt a bit like The Shining. It was quite good. I liked it. Now we have the best episode of the season. And look, I can't fault it. It's even got the guy from Invincible in. Come on, Glenn, don't you like this actor? And this is episode 4, season 1, A Traveler. So this Alaskan police sergeant arrested her brother so that he can get a pardon from their captain. She hates the pardons because she's an Alaskan native, and it's a bit complicated. During the festivities, another inmate appears in the holding cells of the station. His name is legally A. Traveler, and he says he's an extreme tourist who's heard of her captain's Christmas parties because they're famous on YouTube. The Traveler gets pretty friendly with the guest, but she starts to suspect him. And the captain suspects the Traveler because the Traveler has information on a whole bunch of the townspeople, which he shouldn't. The woman, her brother, and the captain eventually see antennas on the Traveler's head. And he deflects the suspicion by saying that the captain's actually in league with the Russians. Now, the Traveler promises the woman that she'll be in charge when his people take over the planet. And she's able to stop the captain at the power shed of the nearby Air Force base, because I think he actually was with the Russians, but regardless, while they're there, they see UFOs descend from the sky, and the brother, still in jail with the Traveler, shares a piece of pie with him, which we see a slight hint of him in his alien form. It's really cool. It's basically a prelude to an alien invasion, but it's fun. I think the season does hold up. It's not as good as the original, but it's a good start. Now, I've actually watched season 1 before, but I haven't watched season 2, and that will be the topic of my next video. Well, the next video on this will be covering season 2. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you agree with my rankings, if you don't agree, if there's anything you'd change around, or any other recommendations for TV shows you think I should watch. As always, if you enjoyed this, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheerio.